Hi, Sharon. It's good to see you, even if it is on a screen.
You too, Dr. Isaacs. It's amazing how much we can do over, virtually now, even doctor's appointments.
Right. So, I looked over your information, Sharon. You said you had some concerns. Let's discuss those.
Well, there were a lot of questions on that form about my family's history of different diseases. There are a few questions. There are a few people in my family who have had cancer, and I just wanted to make sure you saw that.
Oh, yes. I'm glad you brought this up. I saw that and made some notes. Let's talk about this. I see that your mother had breast cancer and her sister, your aunt, is currently being treated for breast cancer. Do you know how old your mother was when she was diagnosed?
Um, she was definitely in her 30s. I think 36 or so.
Oh, okay. Looks like you have a question mark next to your maternal grandmother.
So I think grandma had breast cancer, but she never really talked about her health issues, even with her family. But we all think that's what she had.
Okay. It's not the first time I heard that. I know how it is. Some people are very private, but we definitely need to encourage our family members to talk about things like this for the benefit of the family. Do you know if your mother or aunt had genetic counseling or genetic testing?
I don't think so.
Have you ever heard anyone in your family talk about BRCA or BRCA? That stands for breast cancer. They are genes that are associated with a higher risk of someone having cancer.
I've heard of BRCA. I remember hearing about it with that whole Angelina story. I don't have a clue if they had counseling or testing, and no one in my family said anything about BRCA. My mom passed, and I don't think anyone else would know.
Okay. Because your mother and aunt have had breast cancer, I am going to recommend that you see a genetic counselor.
Counseling? What does counseling have to do with this?
Genetic counseling is different from what we often think about when we hear the word counseling. Like the counseling you've heard of, it involves a discussion with a trained professional, but genetic counseling involves a genetic counselor, a trained medical professional who will discuss your family history of cancer in detail to help determine and understand your risk of getting cancer. The counselor may or may not offer you genetic testing as a result of your conversation. Do you have any questions?
I'm following you so far. Please keep going.
The information you learn from counseling and testing is relevant to you and your family, including your children and siblings. Knowing about your and their risk for cancer can guide you all in doing things that would help reduce that risk. We also find that having that information may help to put your mind at ease.
Wow. Okay. I guess that sounds okay as long as they're not just planning to test me. Will my insurance cover all of this?
That's a good question. When I refer you, you will receive a phone call from someone to help you schedule an appointment. They will be able to answer all of your questions about insurance and give you more details about the process.
Okay. Thank you. I'll wait for that phone call. I wonder what my family's going to think about all this. Let me call Aunt Janice.
Hey, sweetie, how are you?
Hey, so I went to the doctor today and
Lord, what happened?
relax, nothing is wrong. I talked to my doctor about you and mommy.
Why?
It was time for my annual visit with my physician, and I had to fill out a form that asked about my family's history of cancer. The doctor asked me how old mommy was when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and when I answered, she said she was going to refer me to have genetic counseling.
My oncologist just talked to me about that. She set me up with an appointment, but I really didn't understand it. So, what did you learn about it?
So it's not like counseling as we know it, but it's similar because it's really just a conversation. I would discuss our family history and they would help me understand my risk of getting breast cancer. Also, they might suggest that I do a genetic test.
Wait a minute. So, we're going to talk to someone who is not our doctor about all of our family's business. Then we have to do a test, like a blood test. So, they will have all our DNA and everything. I don't know about this. I mean, I am getting my care from the hospital and they are treating me pretty well. But now I'm expected to trust them with all this other stuff. And I already have cancer. So why do I need this? I think we need more information.
Just breathe, Auntie. Mommy was young when she got breast cancer, so finding out my risk may be a good thing. I think I'm almost as old as she was when she was first diagnosed. Plus, the doctor said it could help provide information to our entire family. Look, I know it sounds scary, and I know you have your reasons for not trusting all of this, and rightfully so. Look, we are going to ask all the questions we need to ask so that we both trust the process. So no matter what happens, I know God's got me and God's got you too.
Yeah, I have faith, but
Mm.
I am not sure about this at all. I don't know how this will help me. I've already had cancer. Besides, would you even want to know in advance if you're going to get cancer? Like, are they going to tell you if you will have cancer? Do you want to know that? This is just too much.
Calm down. You do not need to get all riled up. They will tell me my risk of getting that type of cancer, I guess. I don't know for sure. Now you got me all confused. I think it's important to know my risks, not just for myself, but for my kids. Let's see if we can go to counseling together, okay? We can go together for your appointment and we can both learn. Is that okay with you?
Yes, I'm fine with that. This appointment is going to be virtual.
Okay, I will get the info from you.
Hello, Ms. Janice. My name is Allison. I'm a genetic counselor. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this appointment virtually.
You're welcome. I understand a lot of things are virtual now. Also, this is my niece, Sharon. Her doctor told her she needed counseling too, but she decided to come with me first before getting her own appointment. Is that okay?
Of course. So you're here today because your oncologist referred you after your breast cancer diagnosis and hearing of your family history?
Yes, that's right. And for my niece, I guess it's because cancer seems to run in our family.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about hereditary breast cancer and ovarian cancer, or cancer that runs in the family first. Only 5 to 10% of breast cancer cases are because of genetics. In other words, inherited by your parents. So that means out of 100 women with breast cancer, 5 to 10 of those women may have breast cancer because of genetics. When I say genetics, in this case, I'm referring to BRCA or BRCA, one or two genes, but other genes may be involved. Everyone has BRCA genes. However, some people have mutations, or another word you may hear is variant in those genes. That is, the gene is different from usual. When there's a mutation in those genes, it increases your risk of getting breast or ovarian cancer. The mutation in these genes can be passed down from your parents. Do you have any questions at this point? I want to make sure you understand how I'm explaining this. Please just ask if you have any questions at any time.
No questions so far.
Okay, please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. In order to determine if someone has a genetic mutation, we can do a test on your blood or saliva. Testing may let us know if you inherited one of the mutations that we associated with cancer. It could provide life-saving information that would allow you to make decisions, informed decisions. Also, it may provide information for your family members. Testing can have some drawbacks, though.
What about those drawbacks to testing? I'm sure there are some.
Well, first, it's important to know that testing is not perfect. Some people will have inherited cancer, but the test doesn't find a mutation. That's why it's still important to know about your family history. There are other things to consider too. Testing can tell you about different types of cancers besides breast cancer. Many times we know how to screen for or prevent these cancers, but sometimes we don't. If you decide to have testing, we will work together to figure out what tests to do based on the type of information you want to get back. Even then, though, you might learn some unexpected information about cancer risk. Some people feel this isn't the right time for them to learn about future cancer risks, or they're worried about how they or other family members might feel when learning about test results. Even though we don't control what genes are passed in families, sometimes they feel guilty. It's my job to help you anticipate those feelings like that and to help you work through them, whether you decide to have testing and no matter the test results.
Okay, so what if I want to be tested today?
This is a great question because it actually may be best to start testing with Miss Janice.
Me? Why me? I've already had cancer. Isn't the purpose of genetic testing to find out if Sharon will get cancer?
I'm glad you asked. We get that question all the time. One of my colleagues describes it this way. Let's say you have an orchard of red apples. Then one day you look and a bunch of those apples are now green. You decide you're going to do some tests on the apples to find out why they changed. You could start with the red apples, but it would make more sense to start with the apples that actually changed, the green ones. Since you have a cancer diagnosis, Ms. Janice, it makes better sense to start testing with you. If you have a mutation, then we know what to look for as we discuss next steps for the family. If you do not have the mutation, then we still need to consider how to evaluate the rest of the family, especially since I see here your mom, Sharon, was diagnosed with breast cancer at a young age.
Okay, well, that makes sense. I like the story about the apples. That really helped. So hold on. If I have the mutation, then what does that mean for me?
Hmm. With your permission, we would share that information with your oncologist so that we could work together to discuss risk prevention options you could consider to reduce your risk of a new breast cancer diagnosis or other cancers.
That sounds like a lot, but I appreciate you telling me this now.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for, to answer your questions so that you can make informed decisions. Okay, let's get started with the pedigree, which is like a family tree or history. Thank you so much for providing this information. As we discussed prior to the pedigree, I think it would be a good idea for you, Ms. Janice, to get genetic testing. How do you feel about that?
I understand the importance of the test for me and for my family. So I would like to go ahead and have the test. When will I get the results back?
I will give you a call when they return. That should be in 2 to 3 weeks. Of course, if you have any questions in the meanwhile, please do not hesitate to contact me.
Ma, we cannot hear you. You are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Whatever. Don't laugh at me. Look, Aunt Janice and I wanted to talk to both of you about our recent doctor's appointments. We saw a genetic counselor the other day.
Yes, and we learned so much we wanted to share with you all.
Counselor? For what? Why?
Well, I was talking to my doctor about our family and breast cancer, and she suggested that I see a genetic counselor. Me and Aunt Janice did the appointment together because her oncologist referred her as well. Long story short, I learned that I'm considered like at risk for breast cancer because of our family history.
So you have breast cancer?
Oh, Lord have mercy. No, I don't.
Baby, your mama does not have breast cancer. Listen, I took good notes. The counselor said that sometimes breast cancer can be hereditary or run in the family, but most times that is not the case.
So how does it run in the family?
So you know how you got your genes from your dad and me as well, right? Well, sometimes those genes are mutated, and certain mutated genes can increase the risk of breast or ovarian cancer. A mutation is like a change in the genes. But like Aunt Janice said, this doesn't happen that often. And the counselor drew this thing called a pedigree. And Aunt Janice and I gave her information about our family.
A pedigree. What is that? And is it uncommon for breast cancer to be caused by those mutated genes? And why is this such a big deal?
It is uncommon, but we learn that it is important, particularly for us as Black people, to consider genetic counseling and testing because we are more likely to get certain cancers and die from certain cancers. As a people, we do not use this service as much as we should for many reasons, like we're not referred to it like we should be.
Right.
Okay, well, that makes sense. But what about this pedigree thing you mentioned?
Oh, that was a really interesting exercise. The genetic counselor asked Aunt Janice to discuss the family, her parents, her siblings, etc. She had to share who was living, who had died, and what were the causes of death. She also discussed who had cancer in the family and what kind of cancer they had. All of that information helps the genetic counselor decide if testing is appropriate. It was very informative.
Okay, so y'all got tested for the mutation. Does that mean that Bridget could have the mutation too?
Only Aunt Janice got tested this time. If she has a mutation, we will explore testing the rest of the family, and not just your sister, you too.
But you said breast cancer.
Men can have breast cancer, like Matthew knows.
And Richard Roundtree.
Oh, dang.
Right. And the counselor said that some of the genes, I think it was BRCA, BRCA, they can also cause pancreatic and prostate cancer. So this applies to all of us.
So, Aunt Janice, you took the test. What was that like?
It was such an easy test. They took my blood and that was it. Easy.
Well, I've got lots of questions. First of all, what happens if you have the mutation? Does that mean we all have it? And I don't know if I can deal with this right now. I don't have insurance at the moment. So yeah. Also, if we're giving our blood or whatever, who has that information and is it safe?
I knew you would ask those questions. The counselor broke all of this down for us. If they find it, Auntie has the mutation, that does not mean that we all have it. But we would work with the genetic counselor to determine next steps that may include us having counseling and testing. The counseling session was covered by insurance, and most people who are at risk of having a genetic mutation do not have to pay anything out of pocket for testing. The genetic counselor would talk to you about that before you were tested. And for your last question, Auntie, did you write down notes about GINA?
I sure did. GINA stands for Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act. And it helps protect people who haven't had cancer from being denied health insurance coverage just because a genetic test says they are at risk for cancer.
Well, that's good to know for when I get health insurance.
So you still haven't said what happens if you have the mutation.
We didn't talk too much about that because, like we said, the chances of having the mutation are low, and our options may depend on what gene is involved. She mentioned something about watching us more closely over time. Like, I may get more mammograms more frequently, or even consider surgery for prevention, like removing my breast or ovaries to reduce the risk of getting cancer. She said we would have options or decisions to make. Plus, after we get Aunt Janice's results, she will get another opportunity to have a discussion with the counselor. That put me at ease to know that we would have a resource to help us make decisions, that we wouldn't just be left out there on our own.
So are you scared, Mom? Aunt Janice?
A little, but God's got everything in control, baby. I think we need to know this, though. This information will help our family and allow us to make informed decisions. Your aunt wasn't feeling it, but I think she has even started to come around.
Yep. God's got it all under control. And just like God is walking me, he's walking with me through this cancer journey. God is going to walk with you all through this journey.
I believe that.
Last question. What if we want to look some stuff up on our own about BRCA, genetic counseling, all this stuff? I wish there was a video or something about this topic. Did the counselor suggest the best place to look? I don't want to get wrong information.
She sure did.
Hello, my name is Alta VCU and I am a genetic counselor. As a genetic counselor, I am very passionate about talking about the topics of genetic counseling and genetic testing, especially in the Black community. And as a result, we really hope that you found this video to be very informative. If you would like to obtain additional information about these important topics, please consider checking out the National Society of Genetic Counselors webpage at aboutgeneticcounselors.org. You may also find the Surgeon General's My Family Health Portrait tool to be very helpful in collecting family history information. And you can identify that tool at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's Public Health Genomics and Precision Health Knowledge page. I encourage you to engage in discussions about family health history with your loved ones. These discussions will be paramount in our ability to access personalized healthcare and ensure that precision medicine is equitable for all. Thank you for your time.